After dropping Jia at school, the day passed quietly. You spent most of the time trying to adjust to the grand yet cold mansion that didn't feel like home at all. The walls were too white, the rooms too silent, like they had forgotten how to hold warmth and laughter. As evening rolled in, you heard Jia's excited voice echoing through the house. As she returned from school, you rushed down the staircase and saw her running towards you with her tiny arms outstretched. Unne, you're still here? She beamed, throwing herself into your arms. You laughed, hugging her tightly. Of course, silly girl. Where else would I go? She looked up at you with sparkling eyes. I thought maybe you wouldn't like it here, like Aunt Sia said. She whispered quietly, a little unsure. Your heart clenched at her innocent words, and you cupped her cheeks gently. Gia, I will never leave you, okay? I'm here and always be with you, no matter what. A big smile formed on her lips. Pinky promise? You grinned, holding up your pinky promise. From the upper floor, Taehyung stood leaning against the balcony railing, watching silently as Gia giggled in your arms. His eyes narrowed slightly as he heard her joyful laughter, a sound that had been so rare since Ji was dead. Later that evening, as the sky turned orange and pink, you decided to spend some time in the kitchen with Gia. Come on, princess, let's make cookies. What do you say? You asked, ruffling her hair playfully. Gia's eyes sparkled. Cookies? Really? Can we put chocolate chips? Of course, all the chocolate chips you want. You laughed as she squealed in excitement. The kitchen was soon filled with soft giggles, the sound of flour being scooped and spoons clinking against bowls. Gia sat on the kitchen counter, swinging her little legs as she mixed the batter with a wooden spoon, leaving streaks of flour on her cheeks and nose. Why, Nunni, look, Gia said, holding up her sticky hands covered in dough. You laughed. Oh no, what a mess. You are turning into a cookie yourself. You gently wiped her nose with a tissue, but she quickly swiped her doughy fingers across your cheeks, smearing your playfully. Now you're a cookie too, Gia giggled loudly. From the doorway, Taeyong stood watching, arms crossed, a serious look on his face, but there was a flicker of softness in his eyes. It had been so long since he had heard Gia's laugh like that. As you leaned over to place the tray of cookies into the oven, Gia suddenly wrapped her arms around your neck, hugging you tightly. Thank you for playing with me, Unni, she whispered sweetly. You hugged her back, pressing a gentle kiss to her head. Thank you for letting me play with you, sweetheart. You are the best little girl I know. Taeyang's heart twisted at the sight. The way you held Gia so naturally, so lovingly, like she was your own. His jaw clenched, remembering how Jiwoo used to do the same. A war of emotions raged inside him, anger, confusion, and something he didn't want to admit yet. Longing. You are good with her. Taehyung's voice cut into the soft atmosphere, suddenly making you both turn. You blinked, surprised to see him standing there. Gia squealed happily. Daddy, look, we made cookies. Waya only said, I could have as many as I want. Taehyung gave her a faint smile. You will get a stomach ache if you eat too many. But Waya Unni will take care of me, right? Gia looked at you trusting. You smiled through your heart, ached at the way Taehyung's gaze stayed unreadable. Of course, I'll always take care of you, princess. Taehyung's eyes lingered on you for a long moment, something heavy and unspoken in them. He hummed, looking away. Don't spoil her too much. He added, but his voice lacked the sharpness from before. Gia hopped down from the counter and ran to her father, tugging on his hand. Daddy, come sit with us, please. Taeyong glanced at her and then at you before sighing. I'll sit for a bit. You were shocked as he joined you both at the kitchen table, sitting stiffly as you served cookies on a plate. Here, you said gently, pushing a plate towards him. You should try one too. Taeyong hesitated before picking one up, taking a small bite. Not bad, he said, eyes glancing towards you quickly before focusing on Gia. Gia clapped her hands happily. See, I told you Ryan only makes yummy cookies. The tension in the room seemed to melt just a little. For the first time, as you sat across from him helping Gia eat, you saw a flicker of the Taehyung you used to know. The man who loved you with all his heart before life tore you apart. But before anything else could be said, Taehyung stood up abruptly, brushing imaginary crumbs off his hands. I have work to do, he muttered, walking out, but not before casting one last unreadable glance over his shoulder at you. As the door closed behind him, you looked at Gia brushing her hair softly. Do you think Daddy is happy now? She asked quietly, her eyes dropping. Your chest ached as you kissed the top of her head. I hope so, baby, I hope so. But deep down you weren't sure, and neither was they. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. Every day felt like a routine that was quietly suffocating you. You tried everything to adjust to your new life to make the house feel alive again, but Taeyang remained a distant shadow. Though you bonded beautifully with Gia, who now clung to you like her whole world, Taeyang never looked at you properly. His eyes always carried that same cold distance, and even when he spoke, his words were short and clipped, as if every syllable pained him to say. At dinners, he would come late, barely eat, and leave the table without so much as a glance at you. You would sit there in silence, swallowing back the ache in your chest while Gia innocently told you about her day. Still, you never gave up. You made sure the house was in order. Gia was cared for, and Theo had everything he needed, even if he never acknowledged it. But all of that changed one stormy night. The rain was pouring heavily outside. Wind howling against the windows when you hear Gia's small voice from the hallway. Unne, I think Dad is sick, she said softly, her face filled with worry. Your eyes widened. What do you mean, baby? Where is he? In his room. I heard him coughing. He's not opening the door. She whispered. Without wasting a second, you rushed to his room. You knocked firmly. Taehyung, open the door, please. Are you okay? No response. Taehyung, I'm coming in. You warned and pushed the door open gently. The sight that greeted you made your heart clench. Taehyung was laying on the bed, fully clothed in his suit, beads of sweat covering his forehead, his breathing heavy and labored. His face was pale, lips slightly parted as if struggling for air. You rushed to his side. Taehyung, oh my god, you are burning up. You gasped, pressing your hand to his forehead. His eyes fluttered open, slightly glassy and unfocused. What are you doing here? He mumbled, trying to sit up, but you gently pushed him back. Don't move, you are burning with fever. You said firmly, heart pounding. I'm fine. He croaked, stubbornly, trying to get up again, but his body betrayed him. Slumping back onto the pillow. You're not fine, you snapped, losing patience. Why didn't you tell anyone? What if something happened to you? Did you think about Gia? His eyes darkened slightly, but he didn't reply. Instead, he turned his face away from you like a child refusing help. Go away, I don't need your pity, he whispered harshly. His words cut deep, but you swallowed the pain. I'm not here out of pity, Taeyang. I'm here because I'm your wife, and whether you like it or not, I'm going to take care of you. He scoffed weakly. You are only my wife because Jiu is not in this world. Don't act like you care. You paused for a second, the words piercing like daggers, but you forced a calm smile on your lips. Maybe you're right, but Jia needs you. I need you to be healthy and alive. Sighing, you left the room for a moment only to return with a bowl of water, a towel, and medicine. You sat beside him, wringing the cloth and placing it gently on his burning forehead. Stop acting like you care, he muttered, but his eyes closed, leaning slightly into the cool touch. You don't get to push me away when you are like this, he whispered, dabbing his forehead gently. I'm not going anywhere. He was too weak to fight, his head slightly turning into your hand as you walked to cool him down. As the night wore on, you sat by his side, making sure the fever didn't get worse. You changed the clothes every few minutes, giving him medicine, wiping away the sweat, and whispering soft words you weren't even sure he could hear. Why are you so stubborn? You murmured as you tugged the blanket around him properly, always trying to act like you don't need anyone. You think I don't know you are hurting, Taeyong? I see it every day. Around 3 a.m., he stirred again, waking slightly. You leaned closer. Do you want some water? He blinked at you, his voice hoarse. Why are you still here? You gave him a soft, sad smile. Because you need someone, and whether you accept me or not, I'm here. For Jia and for you. The young stared at you for a long moment, his gaze unreadable. Something flickered in his eyes. Something softer than the coldness he usually carried. You shouldn't care this much, he whispered brokenly before turning away again as if trying to hide his weakness. But that night you never left his side. You sat there holding his hand even when he was fast asleep, the storm still raging outside. And as you watched him sleep, your heart whispered words you couldn't say aloud. I wish you could see how much I still love you. The morning sun filtered weakly through the grand mansion's window, casting golden streak on the marble floors. You were in the kitchen preparing Gia's favorite breakfast, humming softly to yourself while Gia sat at the table, drawing little hearts and flowers on her notepad. Everything felt calm until you realized Taehyung wasn't here. He usually joined Gia for breakfast, even he barely looked at you. A frown crept over your face as you wiped your hands on the cloth. Gia baby, do you know where Dada is? You asked gently, kneeling beside her. She looked up, her big eyes innocent. Daddy is in mommy's room. He always talks to mommy's picture when he misses her. Your heart is still Jiwoo's room. After the death of Jiwoo, Taeyong changed his room. Without thinking, you quietly made your way through the hall, your feet soft on the floor. As you neared Jiwoo's room, you saw the door slightly ajar. You hesitated for a moment, but the sound of Taeyong's voice, low and broken, made your feet stop. Jiwoo, Taeyong whispered, his voice cracked like a man droning in his own grief. I don't know how to do this anymore. You left me in a mess, you know that, right? You gently leaned against the doorframe, pressing your hand against your chest as you listened, tears already stinging your eyes. I wake up every day and see her face. Taeyong continued, his eyes fixed on Jiyo's smiling picture framed beautifully on her old dresser. She looks so much like you. Sometimes that it scares me. Jia loves her, Jiyo. She calls her mom now. His voice cracked at the last words. You bit your lip to stop yourself from making a sound, your eyes welling up with unshed tears. And I hate myself for this, Taeyong whispered, rubbing his hand over his face in frustration. Because every time she smiles, every time she cares for Jia, I can't help but feel something. Your breath is Jiwoo, he whispered brokenly. What do I do? She was my first love. She was the only one who ever made me feel alive. And now she is standing in our house, wearing your ring, sleeping in our room. How do I stop these feelings, huh? You felt your knees weaken, gripping the doorframe. Hit hope to hold yourself up. I thought I buried it, Jiwoo. I thought when you came into my life, I could forget her, but she's here again, and it hurts because a part of me still wants her like I used to. Taehyung confessed, his voice low and painful. But I can't love her again, Gio. What if she breaks me again like she did all those years ago? Your heart shattered into a million pieces. He still sees you as someone who broke You turned around quickly, not wanting to hear anymore, and ran back to your room, closing the door behind you, your back sliding down the wood as tears streamed down your cheeks. Why am I even trying so hard? You whispered to yourself, holding your knees tightly to your chest. Why do I think I can fix this? Maybe I was a fool to think, to hope he could love me again.